A to the K.
A to the K.
A to the K. Hello, welcome to the A to the K Wrestling Show. We're here to talk WrestleMania, Anthony. The results, the reactions, all of it. All of it. We're going to talk about it.
Let's talk about it. So I'll jump straight in. Have a quick call. Tag team title match. Usos versus Shinsuke and Boogs. I'm not going to talk a lot on this. I'm not even going to give this match much shit because I think when we're talking about results and reactions, my reaction was, oh God. So yeah, I don't think it's fair to. I don't think they got to have the length of match they wanted. Boogs' leg just wasn't having it, and shit situation to land in. But do you know what? It was actually a solid opener up until the situation. I think they were working rather well together. I haven't seen a great deal of Rick Boogs in the ring, but he was looking good, and I feel like I'm glad they got to have the opening match. It was for you and me. I think we said at the time, and I'm going to be completely honest, like it was a weird one to have opening the show.
Yeah, it seems like this year they kind of, I don't know, they kind of veered away from the formula a little bit. Like we expected it to be one of the women's matches.
I think they went for the Barney Stinson approach. Like it shouldn't be like it needs to be all rise, you know.
Yeah, I mean to be fair, yeah, like they kind of did that. It just kind of escalated, didn't it? I mean, maybe a little bit less on night 2, where they kind of put a couple of matches in as almost not fillers, but kind of to, after.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly with this one, we were just kind of like.
But I suppose when you look at both nights together, the configuration was a bit odd because, like, for me, like, there was more surprises in night 1, obviously, than there was in night 2. Night 2 had a lot of shit going on of its own, like, but there were definitely more surprises in night 1.
Yeah, agreed.
But
I think
sticking with the opener though, Carl. I don't know how you felt about it, but I thought it didn't quite deliver, but for obvious reasons.
Yeah, agreed. I don't even think that the plan was ever to put the titles on Shinsuke and Boogs. I think some people are kind of saying, well, they called an audible or whatever after the injury, but I think it was always going to be the Usos retaining.
The audible was, did you fucking see what happened to his leg?
The audible was, oh God. But yeah, obviously,
are they supposed to bend that way?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was going to say, obviously, we just spoke about it on the Ringside Report then, but obviously, speedy recovery to Rick Boogs. Looks like he's going to miss 6 to 12 months of action off the back of it, so nasty one. But yeah, in terms of the opener, solid match, but yeah, I think, circumstances being what they were, probably ended a bit quicker than intended.
Indeed.
Which takes us on to the second match. We had Drew McIntyre taking on Happy Corbin with Madcap Moss. It wasn't a bad match, to be fair. I think it's underwhelming, isn't it? Let's be honest. This is Drew McIntyre, who was winning the title from Brock Lesnar 2 years ago, defending the title against Bobby Lashley last year, and now is in the second match on the card against Happy Corbin.
I think we're both super glad that we weren't live streaming this Mania this year because we totally got it wrong on the protected finisher of Corbin's.
Yeah, so it was. It was funny, wasn't it? I can't remember what it's called now. The spinny one.
The spinny one. We had the deep 6, and then what's the other one?
I think it's the deep 6, the spinny one.
Might be the spinny one.
Yeah, so I think obviously
the end of days.
End of days. So we had when Corbin hit the deep 6, we were like, oh my God, you kicked out of that. No one's ever kicked out of that. Why aren't commentary making a bigger deal out of it?
No one gave a shit, and we're like, has someone kicked out of it?
We were like questioning ourselves, and literally 5 minutes later, you hit the other one.
The end of days.
The end of days. And the commentary team were like, no one's ever kicked out of that before. And we were like, oh, that was the one. But yeah, I mean, fair play. Drew McIntyre, the first one to kick out of it. So obviously the most protected finisher of all time up until that point. So, I suppose, he gets that. But I got a feel for Drew. And then I actually really hated the post-match stuff where
it wound me up for the next 2 matches for obvious reasons, Carl.
But
so yeah, I did.
It went on way too long. So Madcap Moss has just stood on the apron, like they're looking at each other, and like he's waiting to give Drew the signal to do something. I don't know what was happening. Maybe the ring guys were doing something the other side off camera that we couldn't see, and it was taking too long. But they were just stood there for what felt like an eternity, for then Drew to basically cut the ropes with...
What happened? Madcap was saying to him, get your sword out, and he was like, the fuck? And then he realised.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the
Look,
the aftermath of the aftermath.
Look, I'm a fan of Drew, right? Not so much with the sword, right? But this hokey fucking cut through the ropes thing is bad enough. I'm like, yeah, we get it. Your swords can cut through things. That's literally what they're built to do. But okay. So he cut the top 2 ropes. I think it was meant to be 3, but it didn't hit the 3rd. But in any case, I'm not too bothered about the spot, other than the fact that it was a bit hokey and a bit shit. But that one little hokey, stupid spot that they could have done without, because the match was still decent, ruined the next 2 matches for me, because all I could fucking see, Carl, was wonky fucking ropes. Because whoever put the ropes back didn't give a shit about symmetry. He really didn't.
I've never ever seen the ropes look like that before. I don't know what was wrong, but it was out of whack, wasn't it? Something had gone terribly wrong.
Zero shit given. Like,
indeed.
It was not the squared circle anymore.
it was
more like a trapezoid.
That it was. Still better than the Impact 6-sided ring. So obviously Drew McIntyre gets the win, which is a surprise to nobody.
However, the correct result.
Indeed.
So now I won, Carl. And you know what? I thought I'd be giving this shit. I really did. The Mysterios versus The Miz and Logan Paul.
Well, exactly.
Okay, right. Hear me out here, Carl. Logan Paul has bags of potential. He's naturally unlikable, right? For years of cultivating that heel image, apparently it was all for this, right? He's just got that natural sort of arrogance about him, right? Kind of like The Miz, funnily enough. It's an interesting pairing. And everything he was doing, like, don't be wrong, he wasn't perfect. This is like a first match. Instagram totally disagreed with me on this, right? You put the question out there after I said this to you. This was a better first ever match than Bad Bunny's. People always talk about Bad Bunny, and Bad Bunny's really good in the ring. Obviously a massive wrestling fan, and he's done nothing but get better. But when you look at his very first match versus Logan Paul's very first match, Logan Paul was very impressive in this first time in the ring.
I agree.
Even just little psychological nods we were getting as well. Like he didn't just do a frog splash. He did it better than Dominic. That's just salt in the fucking words, right? But he also did the little Eddie Guerrero shoulder thing, just before he did it. He, like just proper like heel asshole moves there. And to me, it was like he was well aware of his ring psychology as well in some senses.
Yeah.
He wasn't perfect by any means, but he did some impressive shit. He got the kip up in there. He jumped over the ropes like it was fucking nothing. Got the frog splash in. I was super impressed with Logan Paul in this. And honestly, if he made a transition into wrestling, he wouldn't be the fucking worst wrestler.
I agree. Yeah, 100%. I think he had a fantastic showing, and I think similar to the Bad Bunny one, which was also a kind of tag match with one guy and one guy who can't wrestle and 3 other wrestlers. Like this was probably very similar. It was one guy who can't wrestle and 3 other and 3 other guys who could, and obviously Dominic Mysterio being the guy who couldn't wrestle. Probably is the reason that people preferred Bad Bunny. But no, I think Logan Paul was really, really good. I think everything you said there, like the little subtleties with the Eddie Guerrero taunt and stuff like that, he did some really awesome stuff, to be fair. But I found something out that, well, it could all be a load of crap, but obviously after the match, which Miz and Logan Paul won, which is the right outcome as well, in my opinion. So after the match, the Miz turned on Logan Paul. But I read somewhere that it was in the contract that Logan Paul wanted to come out of it looking like the face. And I was like, well, that fucking failed, because if anything, that turned the Miz face for most people, because everyone loved the fact that Logan Paul got fucking demolished afterwards.
I appreciate where he's coming from, and it's classic wrestling stuff, and it being betrayed by your tag partner would make you the face in that story. But maybe don't come out with a $6 million Pokemon card around your neck if you want to win the crowd over, because that's not like everyman kind of shit,
But there is that. There's also the fact he's just a very unlikable dude for the most part. But,
honestly, it's like, even that is like, I don't know much about Logan Paul. I'm an old man, I don't know who these youngins are, right? But no, kidding aside, he's matured a ton. He's significantly less obnoxious than he was back in the day. And we've all been obnoxious teens. I'm not going to call him on that one. I fucking was one.
He is, and probably always has been, 1,000,000% more likable than his idiotic brother.
I think made the right move pulling his brother into the YouTube stuff, because by osmosis, that's not true. By comparison, you go, Logan's all right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, fair play. Fantastic debut for Logan Paul, I think, and who knows if he decides to step in there again, he might be able to make something of it.
He's done so well that if he decides to step in there again, it's a match I would actually look forward to.
Yeah, me too.
And it went from being a match of like, oh, here's another celebrity match, it's going to be a bit shit, to being something I really enjoyed to watch, and I would watch another of his matches, no problem at all.
Indeed, and obviously it must attract a significant, portion of younger fans to watching it as well, because obviously we just don't even get him. So imagine the ones that do. Imagine the ones who like him.
What is a Pokemon?
Great question. I thought it was his finishing move. Is that right?
The Pikachu. That's a shit joke, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So on to the next one. We had the Raw Women's title on the line. Becky Lynch defending against Bianca Belair. And genuinely, thoroughly enjoyed it. I think I'm gonna have a very unpopular opinion here, Anthony. Right? I said this to you at the time. I don't understand why they had to start off the match with the 2-minute long soaking in of the fans and everyone cheering for them and stuff like that. Right? I don't get it. Do we have to have this before every women's match now? Because in my eyes...
No, don't have to have it for Ronda's ones.
Well, in my eyes, like, the women's matches should be equal now. And I know, obviously, when it was Bianca and Sasha, it was the first time 2 black women had ever main evented, and that in itself was a monumental occasion, so you kind of understood it for that. And it was, but this wasn't a main event. This wasn't
genuine then.
Well, yeah, and
that's some of the issue. They were genuinely emotional about it. Now I think they just go through the motions.
Exactly, and it's like I just don't feel it's needed. If anything, it cheapened it for me because they didn't need it. They built up the story. They had enough going about them to have people invested. It just didn't need that extra, bit. And it dampened what was a fantastic start to a match. I think this may have actually had the best start to a match we've ever had.
I totally agree. I think this is on the borderline now of almost being patronising to women's matches. I get it, like you say. Initially, it's like that was the women's evolution was a big thing. What they've achieved is a big thing, but they've got to the point now that it should be a normal thing for women to have incredible matches on main cards, right? So the fact that it's like, oh look, are they doing well? Let's just take a moment to appreciate where women have come. Just feels like a patronising fucking asshole booking, doesn't it? At that point.
Exactly. It just didn't need it, but a fantastic start to the match as well. There was a couple of times where I was like, "Oh my, is that it? Is Becky going to win again? Surely not," and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Well, I want to shout out to Bianca's entrance as well. I thought that was particularly. I don't know, it just made it look like a star. I love the inclusion of the band anyway. I think it was a good. You always get the sort of spectacles of entrances at Mania, but made it look like the fucking star out of the two of them, which is don't be wrong, Becky rocked up in her Escalade or whatever she was driving, but Bianca just sort of outdone her on the entrance, and straight away you're like, look at her, she looks like a megastar compared to Rhea, which was clearly the aim. So I'm not trying to diss Becky when I say that.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think fair play to Bianca as well for taking that fucking absolute shiner in the face from the flippy thing that kind of didn't go to plan.
Clock straight in the face on it, to be fair.
Yeah.
And we're not trying to talk shit, but I'll mention it because it's something I fear you mentioned sort of when we were watching the match that didn't happen, and I was quite pleased it didn't, and that was that Bianca soaked in the victory, and we didn't have Montez coming to be like, look at my woman.
Exactly.
Because again, that's another slightly patronising thing I always find is like, look what she achieved. No, I'm not going to say it. I was going to say it's like the Will Smith, when Will Smith's like, look, and you're like, yeah, but now we're all looking at you, Will.
Yeah.
You've done the opposite of what you were trying to achieve here. But it's not worth mentioning Will Smith right now because he goes out slam.
This is true. But no, it's another classic example. You don't get men winning matches and then the female partners running down the ring and making it all about them, do they? So
how often do you see Stephanie come out going, look how well Triple H did?
Exactly, and if anyone was going to do it would be Stephanie. So
she's all grown up now.
But I think
that joke doesn't even land anymore. I shouldn't have that theme in ages.
I know, but Yeah, fantastic match. I think it was the right outcome as well. It was for WWE. It was long-term storytelling. Let's be honest. It's gone from SummerSlam to now.
Well, I'm gonna have to eat a little bit of humble pie as well, because I was saying to you, I think they're gonna push Becky further into the heel thing. I don't think they're gonna give Bianca the win, and I thought they were gonna be too tone deaf to fulfill the story, and I was totally fucking wrong. And this is just me being like, I don't know, not bitter. It's not the right word. Too skeptical, because the story played out exactly as it should have, and how anyone would naturally tell the story. And I'm there like, nah, it's not gonna happen because we've been burnt before, so I'm not gonna trust it. But absolutely the right decision, and I'm so glad that they pulled the trigger and give her the title back. But I'm still a little bit hurt about the 21-second victory, but whatever.
Indeed.
Oh, it's me. Okay. So the next one, Carl. It's going to be a polarized one. Seth Rollins versus the mystery opponent. Now, no point beating around the bush. We all know who it ended up being. It ended up being Cody Rhodes. Now, there was something so fucking surreal about this match, about everything from Cody's entrance onwards, because we've been watching AEW for a long time, Carl, and a lot of it is like, it felt really disjointing for people like you and me who are watching both shows to be like, but you should be on that one.
It did. It felt like some kind of weird fantasy booked, like, WWE 2K thing that we were watching. It just didn't feel real, did it?
It didn't. And I'm going to get the negative out of the way, because overall this was a huge thing, great thing for WrestleMania, and a really good match. But I just want to get one little bit of negativity out of the way, and I'll do it now so we can be positive the rest of it. So many people were like, fantastic, amazing match between these two. This was like a 5-star match. And I'm just like, calm down. It was a good match. But the best part about it was the shock return and a couple of different spots. The overall match itself was good. It wasn't 5-star. It wasn't amazing. It was good. And I'm that's the biggest bit of negativity I'm going to go about it, because I'm not saying it was a bad match by any means, but people are massively overhyping it. If this had been anyone other than Cody, exact same match, anyone other than Cody, they wouldn't be talking about it being a 5-star match.
Yeah, I was massively surprised, to be honest, because I was feeling a bit sad for them, because it was quite botchy. There was a good few times where things didn't come off right, or like with the fucking pin thing where they tried to lift up from it and things that just didn't happen. Yeah. There was quite a few times that happened, and I was like, I wanted this to go really well for them, and then everyone was just like, it's amazing. And I was like, it was decent.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And some people just, I think, needed to calm down from the shock.
Yeah.
Because everything that happened in that match was just amazing, because they were so shocked Cody was there. And that is where, let's go back into talking about the good. Like, I think both of us may have had our doubts at some point. Everyone was saying Cody's coming to Mania, and it seemed like a set, but then you get little bits like Sean Ross Sapp didn't confirm it. And then you get little bits like, people close to Cody are saying he might not have backed out, he might not be doing it. And then the way they booked it was like some hand-picked by Vince McMahon. This person's been chosen by Vince McMahon, and you go, well, why would you book Cody like someone who was chosen by Vince McMahon, who historically wasn't, you know?
Yeah.
So I think we both kind of like, it'll happen, but both of us are in the back of our minds going, it's not going to happen. It's not going to be Cody. So when it actually ends up being Cody, it's so fucking surreal. Even though you kind of knew it was going to happen, it was still a shock in a lot of ways, you know?
Yeah, and I think the thing they absolutely nailed with it all is having him be AEW Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
The same theme, music, the same gear.
Attire, everything, yeah.
Everything, even the god-awful fucking 3D animations that we get. It was American Nightmare fucking skulls everywhere. And it was probably one of the only ones that looked half decent.
Alright, it wasn't exactly like it is in AEW, but the Ryzen platform entrance as well. Like, everything was all AEW Cody. And even to the point, because a lot of people were saying, we can't use the American Nightmare music, whatever it's called, because that is like anti-WWE, that song. And it's like, yeah, kind of, but, it's still Cody's music. It's synonymous with him. He's been using it for like 6 years now, I think. Mm-hmm. So, no, I think that totally hit. And again, whilst the match, I'm not saying the match was overall 5 stars, and it was still a good match. I was more impressed with the little sort of nods and spots that they put in there. So like, little things, stupid little things like Seth sort of audibly like being the heel Seth saying like, "Oh, welcome back to the big leagues" and stuff like that, to the point that you could hear it, quite clearly. I think things like that were great little ways of Seth carrying on his character, and obviously Cody, given now especially we've had the promo on Raw and we know his full reasons for being back. Even before that, when he busted out Dusty's move, you'll have to tell me what the name of the move is, Carl, because I forgot it.
Bionic elbow.
Bionic elbow. Busted out the bionic elbow, and the crowd fucking popped massively for it, as they should. Things like that were amazing. You know what I mean? So again, it was by no means a bad match. It was probably one of the best matches of the night. But the only slight negativity is I think people over-egged the overall quality of the match.
Yeah, agreed. It was definitely a fantastic WrestleMania moment as opposed to WrestleMania match. I think the match was fine, definitely was, but yeah, I think everybody just overreacted a little bit because of the, as you said, that it was still very fresh. That, oh my god, what's Cody doing in WWE? But yeah, definitely a hell of a moment. Just that, like, when we heard that, I was like, oh shit! You could just tell straight away from that.
I don't know if you remember this, Carl, but when the lights went out and everyone had their phones and the lights, and you knew way before I did, because I said, "Is that meant to be Fireflies?" Thinking that they might have pulled a Bray Wyatt, and then you're like, "No, it's Cody," and I was like, "How did you realize that? You know that theme so fucking well. You knew what was happening."
Yeah,
I was quite impressed with
it. It didn't even need all the stuff. It's just that initial boom boom. Wrestling has more than one. I was like, yeah, it's Cody. Holy shit!
The minute you heard that first bump, you're like, it's Cody. Yeah, I was wow.
Okay. That's it. But no, fantastic WrestleMania moment, and I made up for him, to be fair. I know he's taking a lot of shit from people of like, how could you leave AEW with the lurch and all that, but at the end of the day, he's got
explained that really well.
Yeah, at the end of the day, he's got something that he's coming back to do, and it's something he's always wanted to do. It sounds like they're giving him that opportunity to do that, paying him really well for it, and going to book him in a way that he's happy with. So,
well, at the end of the day, if Cody, I would be on board with everyone. I'd have my pitchfork out and everything if Cody had come back without some sort of assurance that he was going to be in the main event. Because why the fuck would you?
Yeah.
He's come back and he's got exactly what he wants out of WWE. Good on him.
If he'd come back and like it was under the you can do it as long as you bury AEW and say like start referring to them as the minor leagues and all this kind of stuff. If he would have come back and done that, then you quite understandably. But at the end of the day, he's come back. He's had glowing things to say about AEW, his time there, and he's very clearly expressed that he's just got unfinished business that he's doing for his family legacy. At the end of the day, so
yeah,
no puns intended.
A class act.
Class act indeed. So the next one to talk about is the SmackDown Women's title. We had Charlotte Flair defending against Ronda Rousey. I'm not going to say too much about this, to be fair. I think this was the best Ronda looked in her second run in terms of, in ring. She looked like she was, shaking off a bit of ring rust because she'd looked sloppy and she looked disinterested in the whole run up to this. And, that's just facts. She just looked somewhat out of shape, and she's just had a kid and stuff as well, so maybe she didn't get full time to train for it. But when she first came back at the Rumble, we were like, this isn't as exciting as it was the first time we saw her. It doesn't look like she wants to be there or that she's ready. But this was like back to her first run almost. So fair play to her on that. But the match itself was just okay. I suppose the finish was surprising, bit of a screwy finish to have Charlotte be the one to go over and retain the title. It just kind of felt a little bit flat to me. It wasn't a bad match by any means, but it was just very much like meh.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. I don't know how you feel about the placements because, like you said, the card wasn't really built that way this time, but I feel like this should have been the earlier women's match, in all honesty. It wasn't a bad match, but, it was kind of the main event of the women's. Position-wise, in some senses.
I'm kind of glad it wasn't, because I think that could be part to do with why I felt flat. Is the fans are just giving so much to the Cody Seth match to then have this sandwich between, Kevin Owens and Austin.
It's hard to sort of go from the Cody match to Bianca and Becky. That would have had probably the wrong effect in some senses. When it's maybe they knew that it was the cooler match. The match that you're going to cool down on a bit would be the Ronda Charlotte one. Yeah. Especially it's something we've had before.
Yeah, exactly. So, for me, the match was fine, but it was just very meh. And the finish, I wasn't thrilled with, to be fair. But, let's see where they go.
I do want to say, though, I feel like for some reason Rousey's getting like a lot of like speculation about the fact that she stormed out and she hated there and stuff like that, and she's having to debunk a lot of like rumors that she's like got some sort of strop on about Mania, which is I don't know where they're starting, but I don't know if you believe there's any truth in it, Carl, but like she's debunked it a couple of times now, saying, well, I've got a 6-month-old at home, that's why I left early, that's why I went there for Hall of Fame, etc. But a lot of like, she stormed out because she weren't the main event of the show and stuff like that. And apparently none of it's true, but she's magnetizing that kind of heat where they're looking for like a real life animosity there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of shitty, to be fair, because she's quite open with the fact that she can't handle criticism very well. I think we all know that about her.
Reasons to criticize.
So it's like people are now jumping on that to criticize her about everything. So it's not very fair. It sounds like none of it is true, and if it isn't, then yeah, pretty shitty of people to be trying to jump on nothing and spread fake news. But
yeah, I hate when people spread fake news.
Indeed.
Anyway, speaking of that, it's good. I'm not gonna spread any fake news, Carl. I know I made it sound like I would, but I won't. Right, found a match tonight, Carl, and fucking hell, so surprising in a lot of senses.
Surprising.
The show.
Surprising the fact that you just said the final match of the night, because we didn't think we were getting this.
Yeah. Well, I fucking ruined the surprise there by saying it that way, didn't I? We had the Kevin Owens show, Carl, and then I feel like it was the right balance because we had the show, they made it look like it was going to be a talking segment. I stand victorious, Carl, in the fact that Stone Cold Steve Austin does wrestle in jorts. Go fuck yourself. Right?
Fuck you. I'm so annoyed. We actually had like someone comment on this as well from the last episode where they were like, Anthony was right, he does wrestle in shorts. I was devastated. Devastated to be proved wrong.
But I know you remember him in his little trunks, right? But he definitely wrestled in jorts before. And he's done it again, right?
He hasn't wrestled in them before. So, that's what the point I was making.
He comes out. And you and me are having this little semi-debate when he came out. He come and sat down to talk to Kevin. I'm like, well, he's got the knee braces on. He's wearing his jorts, so he's ready for a match. And you're like, he doesn't wrestle in jorts. I'm like, all right, calm down. You know. But I feel like when I say about balance, I feel it was the right amount of like, they made it seem like they're going to have a talk, but then they didn't, you know, beat around the bush for too long. It was very much like, you know, I think Kevin Owens instigated it as well. Then he's saying like, I want to fight you tonight, sort of thing. And then Stone Cold did his usual Stone Cold thing, address the audience. Should we do it? And then we kick off. And again, even during the match, you're like, yeah, it's not going to last long. No, it's going to be a few spots and then we're going to be done. They were all over the show. They were in the audience. They were on the tables. Like,
I was so surprised.
And you're going, we're being really careful. You know, he's not like. And then you got like Kevin Owens throwing him at the barricades and stuff, and you're like, fuck, he's taking some bumps as well.
You fucking superplexed him on the concrete and everything. I'm like,
it's like, yeah, you're getting like up to the top of the ramp and we're getting spots like that, and you're like, Jesus fucking Christ! Like, fair play to Austin. Like, you could tell, like, he's not got the pace of a younger Austin, quite clearly. But my fucking God, like, he was definitely there for that match. You know, he was taking bumps. You were getting, like, he was stomping mud holes all over Kevin Owens. It was fantastic. And I don't know, like, if the younger crowd took to this match, but this was this is how you close Mania out, because we were fucking spent. This was a main event match. It's by all accounts a retirement match for Austin, and just fantastically executed. And it's a real testament to Kevin Owens. I think we both said this at the time, that you know, Austin wouldn't come back and fight somebody who he didn't really, really trust, especially the spots they were doing. You mentioned the bit on the concrete when they were in the audience. He wouldn't let anyone do that, because it's not just about Austin being able to take a bump, it's about that person being very fucking careful with it as well. And it's a real testament to KO that Austin trusted him with this as well.
Absolutely. Like, what a feather to have in the cap of Kevin Owens, to be like, yeah, I was Austin's last WrestleMania match, brought him out of retirement after, 19 years. Was it 19? How many years has it been? Can't be. Is it 19?
I think it was 19.
19? Holy shit. Wow. Yeah.
As well, like, because it's one of them where, like, last year, if you'd have said, yeah, Kevin Owens is going to main event night one of WrestleMania, we'd have probably gone, no, he's fucking done.
Exactly.
And that's no disrespect to Kevin Owens, but you just couldn't have seen this match coming, and I'm so glad it fucking happened.
Yeah. It was just, yeah, it was brilliant. It was came as such a surprise, the fact that, as you said, it went on for so long, and the fact it was an absolute brawl, and yeah, massive props to Kevin Owens.
He's as has become tradition now as well, we also ended the night with Byron Saxton getting kicked in the dick.
I hope that happens. I hope that doesn't get retired. I hope that happens every future. It's a new WrestleMania streak that we're going to see. I'd like to think, but no. Yeah, hell of a fun way to end night one. I think we were made up with it all. I think surprisingly we looked at night one on paper and were like, "Oh, this is going to be awful," and it massively over-delivered for us. I think really thoroughly enjoyed night one.
Indeed.
Which takes us on to night two, Anthony, and what a way to kick off the show for night two. Obviously, Triple H's music plays. And I'd said this when we found out about the fact that he confirmed his retirement and stuff, that it would have been nice for him to get one final WrestleMania entrance, like, because obviously he loves his entrances and stuff like that. And it's a shame that they didn't get to do anything more kind of substantial with it. But at the end of the day, he got to come out at WrestleMania to do his entrance and to leave his boots in the ring, and such a sad moment that, isn't it? Triple H is
incredibly so. But like you say, it's nice being able to have that moment where he got to leave his boots in the ring, to leave without ever addressing the crowd. And I'm not saying this as fans, like, for Triple H, I think he needed that. Like he's a very traditionalist in a lot of senses. Like, he's one of these people who he would have preferred to sort of what was the term, go out on your back.
Yeah,
like, this isn't really like the best sort of way of retiring for the likes of Triple H, because he is like an old school wrestler, and to have possibly left without ever sort of addressing the crowd, I don't think that would have ever sat well with him. So I'm glad he got to do that. I really am.
Yeah, me too. It was such a nice touch, and I think a really nice way to kind of open the night with something like that. Just kind of set the right tone, I think.
Yeah, totally agree. So as far as matches go, Carl, obviously we had the tag match, or triple threat tag match, for the Raw tag titles. I forget what shows are on anymore. So we had RK Bro going up against Alpha Academy, going up against Street Profits, and I will be honest with you, Carl, decent enough match, but I was actually quite surprised at the finish. I don't know how you felt about this. I was not going into this thinking RK Bro were coming out of this with the titles.
No, me neither. I honestly thought this would be the launching pad for them to break up. But it seems like they really just don't want to see them break up, which is surprising.
I think mostly because Randy Orton's loving life, though. So, yeah, it's I don't know. I don't personally have a great deal to say about the match, though. It was decent enough, but I don't know if you have any particular memorable spots from it. But it was. No, I'm not saying it was bad, but it was. There's nothing I could really write on about it,
No, it was a fun little opening match. I think there was a lot of good teamwork on display. I think it was mainly the RKOs from the pair of them. Obviously, Riddle's springboard RKO was fantastic. Probably definitely spotted the match. Maybe even spotted the night. I'm not too sure, but thoroughly enjoyed that in terms of the match itself. But yeah, surprising that the titles didn't change hands. I certainly thought they were going to go to one of the other teams. So
I mean, I can't remember what I actually picked, but I was my whole time I was thinking it'd be Street Profits. I don't know if that's what I put in my predictions, but certainly during the match I was thinking Street Profits. I thought that might be the sort of start point back on a title run, and it didn't happen, unfortunately, for them.
Indeed. So again, kicking off the show with a fun tag match on both nights. We then moved on to Bobby Lashley taking on Omos, and obviously knowing what we know now in terms of where this was going to go, I don't think we expected it to go there, but
no.
For me, it was the right choice that Bobby Lashley would win this. I think he needed it, being away injured for so long, and I think Omos, at the end of the day, he hasn't built up that kind of credibility where it's like, oh my god, I can't believe they beat Omos. Like, he is beatable in that sense. So I think it was the right decision to have Bobby go over. So for me, I didn't mind it. It was a fun little match for what it was.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of them, isn't it? It's hard. I don't think either of us were overly invested in it, but like you say, for what it was.
Indeed.
But I tell you what did surprise us, Carl.
Go on.
Like, the celebrity matches surprised me all around. I honestly haven't spoken about this. I don't know how you feel about it, but Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville was a lot more fun than I thought it'd be. And purely down to, like, I mean, how can you not enjoy Wee Man getting a body slam on Sami Zayn? And it was a pretty impressive body slam as well.
Yeah, like, it was
all in
chaotic.
All, it was just chaotic fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was just so silly, wasn't it? There was so many like crazy things. Like, I love the giant hand slap thing and stuff like that. That was in the bowling ball to the nuts, like and the taser.
Was it Mark Henry actually first made the joke about the giant hand as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like, fair play to him.
Yeah, I love that. But no, like the whole thing, I never expected it to go that way. Do you know what I mean? Like, with like crazy props and stuff like that. Like, I think we all expected that the Jackass crew would probably get involved and there'd be like,
a
couple of crazy bumps. But I didn't expect them to go through like the kind of with all the fucking additional things that they ended up bringing into it. So,
and something that was pointed out afterwards that I never realised, which I thought was a nice nod to comedians getting involved in wrestling, was that Knoxville's attire was Andy Kaufman-esque, obviously alluding to Lawler and Kaufman back in the day.
Yeah, I think it was the same at Royal Rumble, to be honest. But
I honestly never picked up on it. Yeah, it's
a nice it's a nice little nod. It clearly goes to show that the respect is there. I like sometimes they'll bring celebrities in who just don't even care about the business or anything like that, and they'll just do it, get the check and go away. Whereas it's nice to see when they actually do have a little bit of a vested interest. But fair play to Knoxville. He's a crazy guy at his age, and I'm just happy to just get thrown around and be involved in some crazy shit. So yeah, really fun match that I think many people just didn't expect to happen. But yeah, that the Wee Man slam was definitely a massive pop moment for that, wasn't it? Just unexpected, to say the least.
Yeah, definitely.
So the next one to talk about, I'm keen to get your thoughts on this. I wasn't the biggest fan of the match or the outcome, unfortunately, but it was the four-way tag for the women's tag titles. So obviously we had Zelina and Carmella defending against Liv and Rhea, Sasha and Naomi, and Natalya and Shayna Baszler. And new champs were crowned. So Sasha Banks, Naomi did end up winning the match, and I wasn't the biggest fan of it at all, to be honest with you. I don't know, Sasha's got she's never won at WrestleMania, so I think I was kind of hoping that they would give her first win as a singles match and it be made into something a bit bigger than it was, as opposed to just some kind of throwaway match with these two. And I know that they've probably got the best history out of all the group because they were in Team Bad for a bit, but I just don't see what this adds to Sasha Banks right now. I think she should be in the kind of title scene with the likes of Charlotte and stuff like that. So the fact that they've kind of relegated to the tag titles isn't...
See, it would work alright for me if, and I give up doing this with the tag title, but if they are the right people to put some respect on that title. They're both legit stars, but WWE aren't going to book it that way. I convinced myself this, they could put some respect on that title, and it never happens. So, if I thought for 1 second that they were going to give them a decent run with the titles and they were going to make the titles look good and worth having, I'd be on board for it. But you're totally right. It's a strange one to give Sasha a first win as this tag match, and the fact that and it does feel like relegated, and it feels that way for a very good reason to the tag scene. So yeah, totally agree with that.
Yeah, and I think anybody who listens or watches this knows that I'm a big Liv Morgan mark, and I'm surprised that they didn't go with Liv and Rhea for this. I'm even more surprised that Liv's never won a title in the time that she's been there.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
So I don't know. I think now knowing what we know,
boyfriend, aren't you?
She just has to believe. But yeah, I'm surprised. I'm not surprised now that we know kind of what we know, where they seem to be going through like a Liv and Rhea breakup potentially. So yeah, I'm less bothered. But at the time I was like, nah, it should have been Liv and Rhea. But it is what it is. But the match itself, unfortunately, not to write home about, which is a shame.
But speaking of stuff to write home about, Edge versus AJ Styles, Cal.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think we both agree this was always going to be a really good match. The pair of them are legends in the ring. But we'll start with the entrances. So I believe Edge was honouring Triple H with his entrance, but very heavily produced, going very in keeping with his new dark gimmick. What did you make of his entrance? And ignore the fact that he cut his head as he was coming out and, was bleeding already. Let's ignore that bit, because that wasn't intentional.
For AJ or for Edge?
Edge.
Sorry,
the Dark Edge entrance. Yeah, what did you make of it?
I mean, to be honest, I didn't really pick up on the Triple H kind of vibes as such. But yeah, now that you say it, I kind of see that. To be fair, I think I'm just kind of not massively into the new Edge character. To be fair, so I was just kind of a bit like, don't like this guy. So I probably wasn't really massively vested. Have a vested interest in it, but I definitely did pick up on the AJ entrance. The fact he just like twatted his head on the.
Well, yeah, I didn't realise what had happened, but apparently, because I think people were speculating it's from his pyro, but apparently he hit his head on the WrestleMania sign.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah, I did think he was channeling his inner Goldberg and it just nutted something on the way out. But
yeah, I like it. So Edge goes for like an Undertaker-esque kind of thing, and Styles goes for the Goldberg thing. I like it.
Exactly.
But no, I think match-wise, I think that both of them put on an absolute clinic. And honestly, like, the match was always going to be good quality. I'm always a little bit worried, especially with Edge's new gimmick of shenanigans, and we got them. And I'm curious how you feel about it, because I wasn't bothered about it like I thought it would be. Like, it ended in a bit of a screwy way, and we had this interruption of Damien, but especially I think knowing what I know now with where they're building towards some sort of evil faction of Edges, I'm not that upset about it. Like, would you have preferred a more straight finish between these two? Or, because I'm happy if they go into some, I don't know if they're suggesting a rematch at this point, but I'm happy if they go around again, because they are incredibly talented and they work really well together.
So I'm going to give you a bit of a weird answer. I would have been happier with either a more straight finish or a more kind of screwy finish, to be fair, because basically, like,
this
so
was too middle of the road for you. Okay.
Yeah, so Damien comes out and I was like, oh shit, Damien's going to join it with Edge, that's awesome. I was on board with that, but then he just kind of just stood there, and then AJ Styles was like looking over his shoulder for about 10 minutes and then jumped up and then Edge pinned him, and it was like, now if Damien would have cost him the match properly as opposed to just standing there, because that just made AJ look stupid. Whereas
if
Damien,
that was like a bit of a botch in some senses, though, because I got the idea of what they were doing, but do you think maybe they just took a little too long with the distraction?
Yeah, possibly. But I feel like either it should have ended clean, then Damien comes out and joins up with him, or if he's going to come out, then at least cost AJ the match properly, as opposed to just, because it just looked like AJ was stupid. He was just like, I've got the match won, I'm going to finish it. Oh, look, there's Damian Priest. That is Damian Priest. Yes, Damian Priest. Oh, better jump up now after 10 minutes. So, yeah, I wasn't a massive fan of that, to be fair, but I was a big fan of Damian Priest being involved, because immediately I was like, oh shit, where's this going? Which is what you want to see. You don't normally see this kind of thing at a WrestleMania, do you? Where someone just kind of joins a faction out of nowhere. A faction is created at WrestleMania.
Also, because I'm not keeping on this, how protected is the Styles Clash?
The Styles Clash, I don't think is 1,000,000% protected. I think like Shinsuke and that kicked out of it.
Right. I'm just trying to remember people who've kicked out, because obviously one of the notable points was towards the end the Styles Clash was hit, but only got into a 2 count. And I'm just curious, have we had that protected up to now? Because I'm struggling to remember people who've kicked out of it, but I'm sure they have, because they didn't make a big deal of it. But I thought I'd ask Carl. He keeps the records.
Yeah, I mean, they don't keep them very well, but I think it's been kicked out of. I don't think it's fully protected. But yeah, interesting one. But a good match that I think everybody knew they were both capable of. Finish wasn't my ideal cup of tea, but at the
it's
same
really
time,
weird, isn't it? Like we're looking at, like, it was an incredible match, and we're like, yeah, it was what we expected, and almost putting it down in that sense. Like, we expect greatness from them, so they're not going to get much.
Exactly. It's hard when you get to that level where you see a match and you go, well, this better be bloody good, so otherwise, they've let us down.
Because there's that expectation. Like, in some ways, it's annoying, because they can disappoint and we bitch about that. But if they do exactly what we expect them to do, we're not like, that was amazing.
Exactly. Yeah, that's just because we are terrible people. So the next match, I forgot this was even meant to take place. Now, the reason for that is it was meant to take place on the Saturday. So I just assumed it had already happened and I just forgot all about it. But it was actually New Day versus Ridge Holland and Sheamus. And, Scrappy Doo, who was on the outside there as well for a bit. I hate what they've done to Pete Dunne. It's such a sad thing. But what even was this? The match lasted a minute. It was literally the weirdest squash I've ever seen in my life. So yeah, New Day gets squashed. Ridge Holland and Sheamus pick up the win. WrestleMania moment. Not much else to say about it really. Just surprised.
Indeed. So Carl, what did you make of? This ended up being a bit more fun than I suppose was expected, and it's going to lead right into yours because again a lot of stuff we didn't expect happened. So I'll quickly mention mine, but I think we just need to talk about the overall shenanigans involved in all this. So this was originally Pat McAfee and Austin Theory, with obviously a very unsuccessful Austin Theory and Pat McAfee getting the win, which led to your match of Vince McMahon, which is where you go, an 18-year-old madman back in the ring. What is going on? So first of all, what did you make? I'm struggling to like Austin Theory, if I'm honest. So
that means he's doing his job well.
I know this is the trouble. I know he's meant to be obnoxious, but I don't know. I kind of struggled with this whole match because I honestly don't care. Like, I don't care who wins out of it. Thank God for Vince McMahon, because I didn't care. I didn't like McAfee or Theory, so I didn't care who really won out of the two of them. And Theory was just obnoxious as he's meant to be. Like you say, he's doing his job. He's doing exactly, provoking the reaction that he's going for. But I didn't like the initial bout between them two, because it was just a lot of posture and just a bit messy, and I didn't really give a shit, to be honest.
No, I feel you on that, to be honest. Like, Pat McAfee is, I don't know, I'm not his biggest fan, and I know that he's a big wrestling fan, and he, like, you can see that in the work he does as an announcer, but I'm not a huge fan of the guy. Austin Theory I am a huge fan of. I think he is a future world title holder, that guy. He's got all the tools to make it happen, so big fan of him, and we'll come on to one of the highlights of the whole fucking WrestleMania in a second that involved him as well. But yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Like, this whole thing, the match itself was very bland, and I think it was the right outcome in the sense that Austin Theory probably should have lost it as part of his continued failings as Vince McMahon's protege, and also to set up what happened afterwards, which was, of course, Vince McMahon challenging Pat McAfee to a match.
Yeah. I will say that without this, the Austin Theory stuff would have been absolutely abysmal. Like, when it led to this, you go, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And, so it kind of took all of us by surprise, because it was rumoured at the time, before Mania, that Vince McMahon was going to have a match, and we were like, oh, bullshit, like, no chance. And then when it was announced to be Austin Theory, we were like, well, clearly that was a load of crap, that was never going to happen. And we got it anyway. So Vince McMahon ends up having a match with him, beats him with a football to the fucking stomach, because of course he does. And it's one of them, like, is it ridiculous that Vince McMahon would beat Pat McAfee? Yes, of course it is. But he had just had a match, and at the end of the day, Vince McMahon, he does what he wants, so he booked himself to win. And of course, that then led to Stone Cold coming out, and basically, he's just awesome, and he comes out, stuns Austin Theory, one of the best stunner cells I've ever seen in my life. Literally, guy was just fucking floating for about 5 seconds after that stunner.
Honestly, I give credit to Pat McAfee selling of it as well.
Yeah, I think
not as good, but
yeah. I mean, you can sell a stunner like a million different ways, can't you? They're all, they're all good in their own way. One of the really underrated ones is actually Mick Foley's, because he looks like he dies whenever he takes a Stone Cold stunner. It's there's no flopping around or not, and he just literally just looks like he's just being decapitated. So there's that, and obviously you've got the likes of The Rock, where he'll bounce around the ring for days. So they're all very different. Even the late Scott Hall, he had a good sell as well. But yeah, Austin Theory is definitely up there as one of the best. Pat McAfee, fair play to him. I think it was the fact that it was like he spat all the beer out, which was very Shane McMahon-y. But yeah, poor Vince. What were the worst stunner sell ever? It might have even been worse than Linda McMahon's and Donald Trump's sell of the stunner.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, wow. I mean, to be fair, I don't know if you've seen it. WWE had put like a little GIF on Twitter like a day or two later, and they somehow managed to work some editing magic to make that look half fucking decent. Because they kind of just put
definitely
like
the right angle makes it look a lot better. I've seen angles where he just did not even get his head.
Oh no, like it's like clever Hollywood style cuts to make that work.
So
it's
didn't
like
even just change the camera angle, so you didn't know.
It's like you kind of see the kick, and then it kind of moves away to like when he's obviously bounced back off the ropes into the thing, and then you kind of see him like go. It looked great. Obviously, what we saw live, that was not awful sell. But you know what makes it even more funny is like after it happens, Austin just gets up and starts pissing his pants laughing because he knows how shit it was, but he's just there to have a good time, and that's what WrestleMania is all about. Fair play to Vince, 74, however old he is, getting in the ring, putting on a match, and getting the world's worst stunner.
Psycho,
loved it.
Fair play to the man.
Yeah, and it's nice that Austin was there both nights as well. It wasn't just like a one and done kind of thing. So nice that he could actually have a match, which shocked everyone, but then come out and raise hell on night 2 as well.
Honestly, if Vince McMahon's going to be in the building, involved in a match in some way, you got to have Austin there, haven't you?
Well, exactly.
The classic feud between the two of them. You know?
Indeed. It was so bittersweet though, because like it really, really does feel like the end now. Like, it's so nice and nostalgic seeing like Vince and Austin and stuff, but. And even Triple H, it's like it's so like I do feel old. It really is the end.
No, you can't help but feel a little sad when you see our generation of wrestling, like you say, starting to retire or already retired, or Vince McMahon. He actually looks like an old man now and stuff. Like, it does make you feel a little sad. But I love the fact that all of them could have gone. You know what? I'm comfortable. Like, I don't need to do any of this. But they've wanted to sort of give us that nostalgic pop, so I really do appreciate that out of them.
Indeed. So yeah, fun was had by all.
Indeed. Speaking of fun, main event of the night, Carl. I mentioned a lot of this earlier, but I'll go through it again now. This match was, for me, and for those who don't know what the main event was, it was Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar in a unification match, Carl, to unify all the belts, every belt. We had what I pretty much expected out of a match for the most. You mentioned it before. We had the typical spots, the spear through the barricade. We all knew was going to come at some point. We had suplexes and F5s galore. We had exactly what we wanted out of the two of them. And I think it delivered. I know some people wanted more, but I think I said this before. Like, there's speculation over Roman's injury, and it might have got caught a little bit short. But I'm like, you can always ask for more. At what point do we stop the match? Do you know what I mean? I think the decision was right. It should have always been Roman to win this, and I think it was as long as it needed to be. These guys aren't like, and it's no disrespect when I say this to them, they aren't technical wrestlers. This isn't going to be a technical showcase. Brock has learned his lesson over shooting star presses. We're just going to get the stuff that we know that they do. I know he's known for Suplex City, but there's only so many suplexes and F5s and spears and that you can throw out there until it's like, yeah, we've done about 50 now, So for me, I don't think there's a problem at all with the length of the match or the finish of the match. I think it was just exactly what it needed to be for these two guys, to be honest with you. I don't know how you feel about it. It's not like I'm not shitting on the match. Like, there wasn't anything surprising in it, and that's not a bad thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm definitely not in the camp of people who are like, oh, I wanted so much more from this match or anything like that. It would have been nice to get something a little bit extra, because it was very much suplex, Superman punch, Superman. It was the usual shit that we see from these two, as you said, which is, that's what they do. So, all right, fair dues. But, it would have been nice to see, I don't know, Brock try and do a Superman punch just because he's like a funny guy now, isn't he? Or, try and have a bit of fun with it, or even see Roman try and do like some, an F5 or steal some shit. Like, he could have done something a little bit extra, but it wasn't make or break for me. For me, I think it certainly felt like a big fight feel. This felt like when you've been promoting like a fucking UFC fight for like months, and you're finally getting to see the two behemoths square off to actually have the decider essentially, or like even boxing, it felt massive. It felt like these were the two top guys, and they are coming out to settle their scores. So thoroughly thought it was.
Did you like the little nods as well? I know you're a sucker for these sort of things, but like Lesnar taking his gloves off and stuff like that, because it's a fight, it's not a match sort of thing. Did you like those little nods?
Yeah, definitely. And I like the fact he didn't have any silly gimmick entrances and stuff for them. It was literally, they all came down, they both looked and felt and were presented like megastars, and then it was just let's settle this. And ultimately it was the right outcome, wasn't it? I think to the point you made before. Well, if Roman wins, it's like, well, who the fuck can beat Roman? If Brock wins, it's like, well, who the fuck can beat Brock? It makes sense to finally give the win to Roman. Roman hadn't beaten him, had he?
And honestly, like, as much as I've talked shit about Roman in the past, and rightly so, because he was shit at one point. I'm not one of these people who's gone, I've always liked Roman, I don't know if it's so much. No, I didn't like Roman, he was shit.
Suffering succotash, Anthony.
But for the work the guy's put in over the years, and the work he's done to actually get himself over, he so deserves this WrestleMania moment anyway.
Yeah.
Last time, and I say that because he's won at WrestleMania before, but no one fucking wanted it. So, this is a notable thing. The crowd were behind Roman here.
Yeah, it comes back to, I'm keen to get your thoughts on this now. I remember when we did that the tier maker thing for WWE and AEW, and we basically were having that debate over S tier caliber stars, and I was like, I think I would put Roman there, and at the time you were kind of like, I'm not sure he's there yet. Do you think after this match he's there?
I think I'll be even more honest, Carl. I think it's not that how do I put it? I think he was there anyway. I think this match has made me realise he's there.
Right.
So, and I want to be careful how I phrase that, because I'm not saying this match, this is what's put him in S tier. I think I was wrong at the time, and this has made me see why.
Okay.
That's fair enough to say that.
That's an honest and interesting take there, I think. But yeah, like for me, like I was like, he probably is S tier now, but like seeing this, like the way it was presented and the way, he felt like a megastar. It did feel S tier versus S tier this, and
it's not a bad thing at all for WWE to have the problem of like, our two biggest guys have faced off, and who could they possibly face next? Like, that's not a bad problem to have. You know what I mean? Because like, that's the mountain, isn't it? You've put Roman at the very fucking top of the pinnacle. So anyone who takes on Roman is going to have to be like the guy who tries to topple Roman. Do you know what I mean? That's what it becomes now, isn't it? Who can take out Roman? And that is the question. And that is a question that they should have a lot of fun trying to answer now.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not a bad thing.
And it's probably a topic not for now, but for a future episode. But like, there's only a handful of guys who legitimately you could actually think could topple Roman at this point now.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Yeah, definitely makes it.
To either build up someone from scratch, which will take a while, or you look at what we've currently got and go, like you say, of these handful of people, who can do it?
Yeah.
Who can take out the guy?
Which no WWE means it's Bron Breakker next week.
Inexplicably Goldberg at Crown Jewel. Yeah,
wouldn't be surprised. But hell of a WrestleMania. Obviously, night 2 delivered as well. What would you say if you had to pick a night? Would you say night 1 over night 2 still?
I mean, personally for me, because we had the shock of Cody and that just nostalgic pop of getting to see Austin in a match again, it's night 1 for me all day. Night 2 wasn't bad, but night 1 is sort of my favourite.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with you. Like, night 1 just felt a lot more balanced, but do you know what's funny about the whole thing? We could probably, and I don't know, actually, this could be a really shitty take, so I'm keen to get your thoughts, but it feels like between both nights, there was matches in there that if you were to just trim it down and have like 10 matches WrestleMania or something, it would have been a phenomenal card. But then the other part of me thinks, well, then again, 10 matches is a lot, and like, we were able to get Austin across both nights. We were able to get the Vince McMahon thing and stuff. Like,
yeah, I think if any Mania was going to sell me on 2 nights, it'd probably be this one, because I feel like you say, neither night felt awful.
Yeah.
And like you say, one night would have been overly stacked, and you and me would have been fucking exhausted because we already stay up till like 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
So I'm not I might as well just go to work straight after Mania if they keep up. So for me, this has probably been the most fleshed out in terms of that, where you go, okay, I get why it's over 2 nights, because there's some fat you could trim from either of those nights, yeah. But overall, they were 2 really good nights of wrestling.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I think as well, if you had a perfect card, there's no come down moments, is there? And it's like, not to chat shit about the likes of Charlotte and Ronda, but that's very much a match where you spent, because you've spent all that time fucking going, oh, this is awesome. Like all them people who fucking loved Rollins versus Cody, for example. Like, they probably just needed a minute, you know?
You've got to hope. You've got to hope that that's exactly why they put the card. Everyone knew Charlotte and Ronda was it was a rematch, and people were looking forward to seeing it, but it wasn't going to be the biggest thing. You've got to hope that they saw that themselves, So it definitely was a come down. It doesn't make it a bad match, but it was a come down match, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah. But no, all in all, I think we were both very pleasantly surprised by WrestleMania this year, especially after the Rumble.
At the beginning, just after the Rumble, on the build to WrestleMania, we were just bitching and moaning about it being all rematches and it's going to be awful, and the card was looking shit. And out of the bag, they just pulled it right out of the bag. Like, it's a really good Mania. Just can't. I was going to say can't fault it. I could have really tried, but I don't want to fault it. It was a really good 2 nights. Yeah,
fair play to WWE. We give them shit a lot of the time, but yeah, all in all, I think they fully delivered on WrestleMania and even the Raw after Mania for the most part. So it's whether they can keep it up, whether they care, whether they're happy to just go back to what it was now until SummerSlam.
Well, now they've got a shot of adrenaline in the soul. They have just signed Cody Rhodes. Sorry.
But yeah, so obviously, thanks for listening to us, ramble on for an hour about WrestleMania. Probably a long time when you probably could have just watched, some of WrestleMania in this moment, but still, you stuck with it.
1/3 of Raw. Could have watched 1/3 of Raw.
Could have. But yeah, let us know. Do you agree with what we said? Do you disagree? Any different takes? Let us know in the comments. But another fun-filled week, Anthony. I powered through. I've got man flu. Could you tell? I didn't announce it on this one. I said on this week in wrestling. But
you mentioned that more than Cody Rhodes mentioned to his daddy.
You're a terrible person. But not wrong. So yeah, another fun-filled week. Obviously, check out This Week in Wrestling. We've retooled that kind of segment, so let us know what you think of the new format. And obviously, the news this week, not loads going on, but a couple of interesting snippets there to talk about as well. But thank you for tuning in. We will be back next week for more fun-filled shenanigans. But until then, Anthony, if people want to meet some WWE, AEW, Legends of the talent, if you will.
Legends of the talent.
Talents from the wrestling world in the UK in the next couple of weeks. Where might they go to do that?
They're going to go to Liverpool.
They are. And they're going to...
Never sleeps. Hardly ever sleeps.
Oh, maybe.
Do we even have a slogan?
I don't know. We were Capital of Culture at one point. Now we're Capital of Wrestling. So make sure you check out For the Love of Wrestling this April. And here's Jay from the awesome guys over at Monopoly Events to tell you more about the show. Until next week, we are A2theK, and bye.
Bye.
For Love of Wrestling, Europe's largest wrestling convention, returns to the Exhibition Centre in Liverpool on the 23rd and 24th of April. Guests this year include Diva of the Decade, Trish Stratus, the Wrestling God, JBL, the Dudley Boys, Torrie Wilson, and just announced MJF from AEW. We will also be doing a Wyatt family reunion as we welcome Eric Rowan, the man formerly known as Braun Strowman, and indeed the Fiend Bray Wyatt. Also just announced is the man the legend, the icon, Sting. And of course, your Olympic gold medalist, Kurt Angle. This and many, many, many more guests, as well as prop builds, Q&As with all of the wrestlers, and some of the biggest wrestling collections in the world on display from our exhibitors. Get your tickets at forloveofwrestling.co.uk or search Facebook or Twitter for the Love of Wrestling. For the Love of Wrestling, Europe's biggest wrestling convention, returns to Liverpool the 23rd and the 24th of April.
Hey everybody, this is Thunder Rosa and you're watching or listening A2theK. A2theK.
A2theK.